No. Oh, but you have them.
They're at the store next week.
Oh, okay. Can we go get some?
Go get them.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Oh, that's great. I was just asking. So I thought we were starting. Okay, great. Yeah. Perfect. Before we start. Hello, everybody. We're actually like and so welcome everybody. I don't know, can you all see me? I mean, I know you guys can see. Where other people at home can see. And hear me also.
We didn't.
Oh, yeah, we do this people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to. Oh, too long. Yeah.
Chilly without the sun out.
Oh, I love it. You know that. I still am wearing shorts. I'm still wearing shorts.
Those of you who are at home, please mute yourselves now so that we can all hear what's happening in the recital hall. Yeah, Becky, just let me know when there's.
Yes.
Well, you can see me because I'm working in a lot of wonderful things here at the Steinway Piano Gallery. And it's very fun. Fun to find you together. Sure. And my huge thank you to both Michelle today and to Becky for helping us. This is way beyond anything that I understand. So I'm just learning it step by step and trying to step in where I can. So we're online. Oh, what is it? Oh, wonderful. Okay. Oh, you can send me again. I can, yeah. Just make let me know when I should speak to people and they can hear it. Is that okay now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess we'll begin our meeting today. We're very excited about everything we're doing today. One thing that we're doing this year is Karen Clark has a friend who can make us t-shirts. And these t-shirts will say, right now, this is the logo for her own piano studio, but we have a PTRT logo. And so we're thinking that we would like to order shirts for people if they want them this year, this very special year, the centennial year. We would have a PTR logo and we would say PTRTSTL.org 100 years. This is kind of amazing, isn't it? That we've been around we haven't been around 100 years quite yet. But t-shirt, there's a quote of Beethoven. It says, "To play a wrong note is insignificant. To play without passion is inexcusable." So I think we can all do that. Thank you, Karen. So this is just a prototype, and I'll be sending an email about how you might order some of these sometime soon, in the next few months. Two more quick announcements. One is that for Showcase this year, our Showcase recital, we're hoping that possibly our students can play American music. Now, that doesn't mean they can't play something in addition, perhaps, although each studio is allocated only 10 minutes at the Showcase recital. We have a Showcase recital in April, and actually there are 2 evenings that we play that. And because it's our centennial year, we were hoping that maybe because, we have lots of music that has happened in St. Louis over the century, that possibly we wouldn't have to play St. Louis music, but maybe just American music. That might be a way to sort of commemorate our centennial year. Okay, so that's one announcement. We'll be sending an email about that. And the other thing is our auction. So I don't know if any of you remember, but last year we had an online auction because of the pandemic, so we're not able to gather at all. And we're thinking this year is that maybe we have a combination of online and in person. But in order to do that, we will have to have Hui Yun is our wonderful tech person who has conducted the online auction in the past. Hui Yun is extremely busy this year. And so in order to accommodate her very busy schedule, we would need to have any auction pictures that you would want to put online by the middle of November at the very latest. Our auction is held in December, but we would need those extra early this year in order to allow this to happen this year. And so we think about that auction. Let's say
Well, the kind of thing, you said pictures of items that were wrong.
items that we don't donate.
Talk about anyone.
Right, well, books about music teaching or maybe decorative things from your studio that you no longer, you like to have repurposed. Possibly people who cut your hair or deliver your food or massages, anything nails. Although we don't have any studio. Yeah. That's right. Anyway, anything that matters to you, you think maybe might matter to other camp teachers, you can, donate. And our auction is really important each year to, gather a little bit more to cover our program. So keep that in mind, but I'll be thinking about it. Okay, so I promised that I would do just a little bit of St. Louis history in each meeting. Oh, by the way, Eileen Dugan is here for those of you who are here. If you have not gotten your directory, she has it in her lap right now, and I think she's probably just looking around to give those out to the people that are here. Those directories and brochures will be kept at Midwest Music, which is right around the corner from the back. And I did bring some brochures that are in the back, so if anybody wants to pick this up, you can. Okay, so far so good, Becky? Okay, good. All right. Michelle, we are so looking forward to hearing her presentation today. But I wanted to see if
I tried to share it and it won't share to the PDF.
Yeah.
Well, and I tried to share my stuff again. I'm not sure what's going on.
Oh,
Once
okay.
they
All right. Well, so she wants to be able to share her screen. That also is on your share screen, right? Or would be?
yeah.
Yeah.
But as soon as I took mine off and I have to use that app, it won't screen so much what's going on.
Okay. So we just have a little technical thing we need to get about. Oh, yeah.
Because we introduced, we have a lot of new people here and everybody's masked. So we're not sure whether they're new or not. But we have some people and also John, who's right over here, who is from Illinois. She's from Dayton. Where I'm Geelong, and she drove 50 miles to come and join us because GAE is, but I think there's some GAE people online today too.
And it wasn't.
Vera, we're not a member of GAE anymore. I still am, even though I was here now.
It's,
So next to her is, and why don't you stand up and just show your face? Okay, stand up, show your face and introduce yourself.
I'm Karen Park from Lake St. Louis.
Okay?
And we got a jazz concert this year. We had a jazz festival at Lake St. Louis. Yay.
And we have some new members. Monica is one, Monica Orban, right? Turn around, show your face, and you are from Chesapeake.
And I'm Judy Owens, I'm from St. Louis.
Gail Larson from South County.
Gotta show your face.
I'm Kathy Mazzio, I'm from Rolla.
And she's a new member.
I'm Eileen, I'm from Maplewood.
And she's the editor of our.
What?
Our director, the editor of our director,
Yes,
all right? So if you remember, you get one of those.
I'm Vera, and I live in Edwardsville, but I teach in Webster.
I'm Gina Christopher and I live in St. Louis City.
Gina is also a new member. We have more. How many? Yeah, you here. Oh. Okay. I think we're good. Okay, so I have a little historical thing about the St. Louis Institute of Music. Who remembers that place? It was a pretty amazing play. And I was going to show pictures here, but because, well, could I show you? Yeah, let's just, let me just read it. So I just have pictures of the Institute. It was kind of an amazing building. Apparently before 1924, it was an orphanage building for Methodist boys. And so this was a building on Bonham at Evanston and Bonham. And I went to the Institute when I was a kid. And I think, did you go there?
sorry, I didn't catch
Did
that.
you go to? The
No, I didn't, my mom did.
Your mom went, and her Drury went. He actually got his master's at the St. Louis Institute of Music. So anyway, it was founded in 1924 here in St. Louis as the Progressive Series Teachers College. The building, I already told you that it had been an orphanage. There was a man named J.P. Blake that founded the St. Louis Institute of Music. And either he or his son had been a cattle rancher in Texas before they came up here and founded St. Louis Institute of Music. I couldn't find anything else about J.P. Blake on the internet, so it's just interesting to think, why did he open an institute, a music institute? By 1936, it had developed a 4-year college program covering theory, composition, and voice, and most orchestral instruments, as well as piano. And the Institute also sponsored annual foreign music seminars in Paris, London, Vienna, Munich, Leipzig, Copenhagen, and Salzburg for students and teachers to broaden their musical knowledge and their technique. And the St. Louis Institute closed in 1974. So I had been out of high school, I guess, 2 years when it closed. I'd just like to mention a few names that are, people who are still with us, who used to work at the Institute. Wilma Kopecky was a piano student of mine. Does anybody remember that name or know that name? And also Barbara Altman, who is a teacher here at Webster. In Webster, she also attended the Institute. Shirley Bartson, who was my theater teacher, she's with us. And Larissa Borodecka, I don't know about her, whether she's still around or not, but she was one of my piano instructors. And Ingrid Jacobi was one of her students. And she was like we were roughly the same age when we were both going to the Institute. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, this girl is so good. I've got to get to be as good as she is. I've got to practice more. And so Ingrid was actually a national winner in the 1973-74 MTNA Junior Performance Competition. So, so, and then the last little thing I was going to mention is that Art Publication Society was strongly associated with the Institute because that was the material that they had there, to teach from, are all Art Publication Society publications. I brought a couple of things, and they're back here, because let me just bring over real quick. This is a progressive series catalog, because they were really big into this progressive series of pieces. There was actually a contest that they held back in 1924, 3,000 musical entries into this competition, and 104 of them made it into the progressive series. So these were entries from all over the world. This is an outline of how you might go about, teaching the progressive series to your students. And then this, I believe, is I got this from actually Herb Jury's family, but it's a catalog of all the competition studies and exercises. So I thought, you might, after the meeting, we'll just peruse these. I'm just going to lay right up here. I guess they here. And that is the end of my spiel about the St. Louis Institute. Yay! Now I would like to introduce Karen Koch, who will be introducing Michelle. Is it Sisler or Sisler? Okay.
Michelle and I have been friends for some time. We're kind of business partners, I guess you'd say. Those of you who knew that I had the Music Educators Marketplace until 4 years ago, I guess. She took that over because I wanted to sort of cut back. So any of you, I don't know if any of you have seen, Joan might have, and some of the rest of you might have, because I've done presentations with some of these materials, because the marketplace was the business in which teachers created educational materials and conferences and so forth. And that's where I met Michelle, because she also had a business, but she was a tech person. I'm not going to read her introduction because I want her to have time to do what she's going to do today. But I'm going to tell you, if you there's information about her when you get your directory, so you can read about her after that. But there's one paragraph that I think is really important. She is an extremely organized person. She has done conferences all over the country, Canada. And she also did a cruise, piano lessons on a cruise, which we discussed this morning at breakfast. She said they gave her the curriculum that she was supposed to teach, and it wasn't really teaching piano the way we would teach it. It was to give people a fun time on, show them how to play, and we had a specific thing. She said it was really hard to teach because she really wasn't teaching them. It was sort of come and go. They came on Monday and Wednesday and probably had a hangover on Thursday. So anyway, she is a very organized person, and she has done all this tech consulting. She was in charge of the NTNA tech labs for several years. So she is very knowledgeable, so when I have a problem, I call her up. And so she's going to talk about that. But what she does now is her company is, which you picked up probably if you're in the the keys to imagination. It's an online business, but she does still go, and she has a lot of products that I used to have that other teachers have created, because we know that teachers are extremely creative. So some of you may recognize some of those materials. They're out there. If you like them, she brought them so that you can see them, so you can see what's online if you're interested. But also, if it's out there, you can buy it, and she will do that after the presentation. But she also, this will be the 9th year of Music Ed Connect. She was one of the original people who organized an online conference 9 years ago, before we had to. And she made that work, and she has the same presenters, many of the same presenters whom she has met at national conferences all over the country, so she knows who's good and who isn't. And so she has them, and it's the online conference. I will tell you about it. It's in February. It's reasonably priced, and it's very similar now. We're used to using Zoom and other, but you just go for 3 days, and then you can go afterwards to the archives if you want to. And the presenters are fabulous, and you can sit there and chance and do it. So I just want to give it that part, because it's very, very difficult to make it now. As you know, the piano players are struggling. I mean, everybody's been struggling with this. So I just wanted to give you that information if you need those kinds of materials. Primarily. So Michelle, I picked her up at the airport yesterday. I was in Shores, St. Louis. She's been here before, but very much. She's just a conference of things. And we ended up having lunch, going home, and we talked all afternoon, all evening, went to bed at 12:30. So we didn't see anything in St. Louis, but we had a great time. And she is going to share with us some of the things that she has picked up and to help us target our teaching for specific problems that our students have. Remember, this is Michelle's sister from Omaha, Wisconsin.
Let's tell you about it, because that's like actors territory. Well, thank you for having me here for hospitality. It's so weird to come into a conference and, or, a presentation. I didn't have to rent a car, I didn't have to figure out a hotel. I just showed up, and she was my Uber and my hotel and everything else. So it's been fantastic. So today, I thought I would share some information that came from my studio in hopes that so look behind the excuses, the name of the presentation, and I do not have a so I have a cat, but it's really thinking about all those excuses that we hear from our students, right? Like why didn't she practice? And this week, my favorite excuse was I couldn't practice because we were installing our new piano. He got a keyboard that he had to plug into the wall. So, I take all these things and I want to, whatever, just,
Michelle, I don't think you're sharing your screen. I don't think you are. Okay, good. Thank you.
okay. So we assume they're just giving us a line. They just didn't want to practice, right? And I'm going to help you think through what's really going on. So I am the one that's in charge of presenters for that. I'm not the one who's presenters to say, oh, I know a little bit more about that. I read their bio, they're all great, they're all fantastic. But share a little information. So I thought I would share just a couple of photos. This is my family. My husband, Kevin, he is an electrician and he works at Wenger Corporation. And he made the Wenger Corporation because they're also in music. He knows nothing about music, can't find music on piano, but he ended up in the music industry. So they need chairs and fan legs and acoustic pianos and things like that. And then I got a picture because I'll talk about them and then we in the same outfit that still fits, right? So these are this is Brandon and Brianna. This is their senior picture. They are both at Gustavus College now, Brandon is studying math and wants to be a college professor. Don't ask me what he does because it's all foreign to me. Something with math and numbers and letters and symbols. And Brianna is in the nursing program, so she'll be. But they do a lot of traveling. And so I feel bad sometimes. I leave them at home and I'm not there to cook. Karen and I had this conversation. I don't cook. I'm not a very good cook, but I thought, oh, I'll do this really nice thing. I'll make these crock pot meals for my kids. They can just take them out of the fridge from the crock pot. They have a nice meal. I got home and they said, we threw every one of those away. They were all awful. You can never use the crock pot again. So I have been banned. So if you guys have any tried to recipes with me, feel free to. And I didn't realize Karen was going to give me such a nice introduction, so I didn't include this picture. This is in Spokane, Washington, when we were out there for one of the national conferences. So Karen, this is Sally, and a lot of the games that we're going to talk about today, Sally has the patent on. She's the creator of those. So I just wanted to share a little bit about her. She's the one that's from Wisconsin. So she's in the Green Bay area. So sometimes our students, come into lessons and they say, I'm preparing this PowerPoint presentation to explain why I didn't have time to practice this week, right? Sometimes the stories, if you spent half that time practicing, then coming out with the story, we would have been fine, right? So I think this is a really good, like we're talking about these excuses. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the, I guess, the facts behind it, right? So the puzzle learning, so we always do practice at the beginning. The progress becomes slow and then students hit a plateau. So I just have a very simple example. So let's say they're in like 1A. They're cruising through 1A and they get to 1B, or the end of 1A sometimes, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is getting hard because now all this stuff is overwhelming. And it just becomes that plateau. And sometimes they stall a little bit, sometimes the motivation stalls a little bit because, oh my gosh, I have to concentrate a little more, I have to work a little bit harder. So if you expect that students are going to need additional help when they hit this, this plateau, and know that they need our students to get them through that. And that can be in different ways, and we'll share some of those as we're going today. So they need us to help them work through that problem. So I think just being aware of, oh, okay, we're doing really good now, they put this plateau, what do we have to do? We might have to change it up for a little bit, and then they can keep going again. So at musicedconnect.com, one year, Thomas Landers did a presentation, and he said, practice quantity has to be tied with practice quality. The idea that you can practice a lot of minutes, but if you're not focusing on the right skill during that practice is not as valuable. Okay, we know that, right? It's kind of like, yeah, practice with these from last week, but I didn't touch anything from this thing, Yeah, you practice the easy things, but you got the hard things. So this is June. She's only and she said she practiced about 15 minutes all week. And I said, June, what happened? And she was like, busy. In Minnesota. It was a week that it over snow days. It's like you didn't have school. And some this happened kind of naturally for me, but it changed the way that I look at every time a kid tells me to practice. Every time, because I was like, well, I know it wasn't about time anymore. Let's figure this out. So what was really the issue? And she said, well, the music was hard. It really wasn't about the time. But had I never thought to ask those questions and communicate with her, I would have never gotten this answer. Okay, so if the music's hard, I can work that. So what could we do? So sometimes students will look at a piece of music and they decide it's too hard before they even try. You probably have those students come in. I didn't practice this singing on the first moment, right? And So sometimes we try, before they even try. It's just too steep of a mountain. This is where you are, you gotta get up there, oh my gosh, it's all one place, I don't think I can do that. And we have to help them realize they can't teleport to the town. So we have to help them, how are they gonna get there? So what are some ways that we can help students take steps to achieve a goal? So as a good teacher will help the students deconstruct the steps needed. So what are some steps you might help students with? And it can be related, to anything you're teaching. I've got some ideas. Okay, the spot. Anything, yeah.
Well, I got some beginners right now that are really struggling in reading of the stats, so I could give my own worksheets and then step by step at the top, saving and like, saving and like, using things so they're verbalizing every little language out of step.
Absolutely. Right. You didn't just keep them on the bench and go, that's a neat, come on. Right? You did something, you took them off the bench and did something. Now, what other things can you think of?
I found that by asking look at this piece, where looks like the hardest part. Let's start with that. And then just point out something you know they know, and then where does that look easiest? And let's divide it into the sections. Yeah.
And that's really effective because once they get to that hard part, the rest is easy, right? Yeah. And I lost. Let's see what happens here. The connection happens. Another idea of that is sometimes kids that they have to look at the starting piece. You can say, tell me the first note. Tell me the first note. But they'll go, that's easy. And then they're like, oh, okay, what's the next one? Oh, we got to do that. And then suddenly they work through, they don't even realize it, right? And build up their confidence and realize that they can do it.
Sometimes it helps with patterns and repetition.
Yes, that's on my list. I could like write my notes. It's awesome. And you're right, because then it's like, I had a student a couple weeks ago. You want me to learn this piece? It's 2 pages. I can't do that. And I said, well, look at this pattern. It's here, 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 and here. You don't have the piece. And sometimes you can highlight it with a highlighter tape. Look at all these yellow parts are all the same. Or all these, pink parts are the same, or maybe you have different color coding. So that can be really a visual way of seeing the patterns too. So those are ways that you can maybe help them, so they're not so stuck, right? Just push them a little bit. Sometimes they get stuck on a specific skill level. So we'll talk about that. So I listened to a podcast called How to Learn Anything Fast. And here's what Josh Kaufman, the author, said. Music is a bundle of smaller skills used in combination together. Okay. Some of those skills are used all of the time, and some are used almost never. That makes sense too, right? You're probably always going to use note reading, always going to use rhythm, but you might not use like maybe all the terms and symbols, or you might not use a certain technique or something like that. Focusing and practicing the core fundamentals first will give you the return, most return on your effort. So looking at those pieces of music, like you were talking about with the sections or something. What can we do to make the most progress first and kind of get them going? And we want to set up a learning process for students to be successful in the shortest amount of time, right? So this will not only help their practice, but it will help student retention. So what concepts do you think, June said for music is harder? So I had to think about what's hard? That's a pretty broad thing, that's hard. What I learned is that she looked at her music and she saw all these terms and symbols. And she said, I don't know what any of that is, they're overwhelming. And there are things we often talked about, she didn't learn, but she'd forgotten. That's common, right? No big deal. But it just maybe is a little too hard. And so what we did is we played Legato Lake. And Legato Lake is a game that is a bingo, blackout bingo style game that works on terms and symbols. And this can be played one-on-one, just like June and I did, or in a group. But the one thing I really like about it is it took it off the bench, like you were saying. Takes it off the bench, you're no longer looking at music, but focus on that skill before we go back. But I had to discuss with her, you know, I flip over a card, and she had to mark it off. Okay, what is this symbol? What does it mean? So in a way, I figured, what does she know, what does she not know? We talked about the things she didn't know. And then the music was like, oh, well, yeah, I know that one, I know that one. So just something simple like this can be very effective. So maybe your music look easier, just by something. One of the things that she found troubling was shirts and flats. You know, some kids don't remember which one was on, whatever. So we got this keyboard out, and these are by Schultz Publishing Magazines. And we took the marbles, and they said, okay, you know, find me a C, now we're with the Sharpie or with the flat key. Just something very simple to find some of those. And so working with her, what does she understand? Where does she need help? So to illustrate this, I thought we played 15. So in your handouts, you have a game board. You have rhythm rhyme on one side, and don't fret on the other. You just need about 8. Anybody, you take maybe one either. More easy.
Just sit in front.
So
Yeah,
that
sit in
is-
front. Okay.
Don't credit also a term. The difference is that look out on the lake, they go fishing for terms and symbols, and it's probably the only game that's really designed for a little bit younger students. And so if you have students that maybe are a little bit older, or you want to go a little bit higher level, friends like 3 games. So I just want to check this one. Play the same way as. So all you have to do is mark off the symbol when you get it. And there's 2 calling cards that come with all of these games. One shows the symbol, and that's a great way to introduce them and show them and teach them. Even at that first lesson, sometimes it's just a great fun activity. But another way is just to do the definition. So all you do is mark these up on your card. So accent, for example. And I would not do the same way I'm going to do, because I'm going to ask them, so what does that mean? How would you play it? You know, if I'm working one-on-one with the student, I say, well, play me off, maybe with an accent. So really open the conversation again. But I don't have to do that with you, because I'm sure you know an accent. And same with bass level. Which hand plays this? Right hand or left hand? Is it high sounds or low sounds? And if you did the deck where it just had the definitions, it would say, you know, I don't remember what the definition was, but just the definition they have found it, and then you could kind of. All right. This here, you got a card like I do. No, I know. No. Diminuendo window. Dynamics. They're what are dynamics? And they're like, oh, that's a lot, or how fast or slow you play, right? Yeah. Cool. Make note. Interest.
What dynamics is it? The word dynamics?
It's just the word dynamics. In this case. Yeah. Okay. Because P and F are going to be separate ones in this particular game. Flat. You know, we're going pretty fast. No, not really. Okay, so one, you get to mark any one, but what I have my students do is they get to mark any one, you have to tell me what you're marking and what it means. And you can't move it once you mark it. Next turn isn't like slide it over and put it in, right? So you mark whatever you want. And you can have your own rules. Sally has this where just showing the terms and stuff. So sign for silent blessing as long as I have to. Already signed them all. Moderately loud. Moderately soft. Cancels a sharper flat. Oh, I hope we get through all these. Or I hope I put enough in here. Play softly. Sign for silent flexing as long as the quarter note. Play again. Play one half step higher. Play legato.
No.
You got them all?
I got them.
Good job. I'm sure that if you're going to cheat again, it's not going to be on the
So basically, the games are helping diagnose what they know. It's like a test, they don't.
It can be. It can be. This can help you with what they don't know, help you review. It can help you in so many. If you have a few minutes to fill up the end of the lesson and you're like, oh, we just got done really early. Wow, they never really practiced, whatever. Sometimes this is a great little filler and they're still learning something, they're still doing something. That's helpful. So another way that you could do assessments or just see what they understand, of course, is worksheets. And if you have the legato linking, let me know when I can give you these worksheets for free. What I do with these is in this summer, so I teach private lessons during the year, but in the summer we do group lessons. And so we put away their lesson books, we just do games, we do off the bench activities, and I gave you some ideas for those too. But so at the beginning of summer, I might give them a worksheet like this. Well, these are both the same, printer friendly and not. But and I'll say, okay, do this. I don't care how many get right or wrong. I just want to see what you know. Give them one at the end of summer. Oh, yeah, you're doing good. You know, and you'll see it in their lessons too. I have been so amazed by Sally's games because I see such progress in a short amount of time. So I'm really glad that I discovered her stuff. Did any of you attend our Google Control That presentation? Okay. It's a free thing if you want about how to use Google Drive and things like that. It's on our website. These sheets are also in Google Drive if you want to check from them. All right, so our job as teachers, of course, is to remove that frustration barrier, right? We want them to practice long enough so the practice itself becomes stops being frustrating and starts becoming fun. But of course, we have to find that barrier first. So this is Amelia. This is Amelia. And I will tell you some pictures of the quote you'll hear in just a minute. And she had not practiced, and I said, "What happened this week?" Well, I broke my leg. And he said, "Amelia." I said, "Well, it's a really good thing we don't, meet our legs like that." Now, this is assuming that their piano wasn't down the stairs, or she couldn't go downstairs, or she was in the hospital. That's not the case in this one. I know there's all kinds of things that could have happened. And I said, she goes, "Oh yeah, my mom won't let me practice." Yeah, I still not buying this. And so I said, what was really the issue? And this is her quote: "It is hard, and I only like piano when I'm good at it." Okay, she thinks it's hard too. What's hard about it though? That was stopping. She gave me all kinds of she tried all kinds of excuses that really weren't the case. So I said to her, "Amelia, sometimes kids tell me they really don't, or they don't have time when there's really something else." I said, like, maybe they don't know what to do. Maybe they don't know the notes, or they don't know the rhythm. And she goes, "That's why I don't practice. It's because it's hard." The first time you practice, it is hard. And then you practice and get good at it, and then it's fun. This is like, what, second grade? saying this. I really don't like to practice, but practice makes me good, and I only like piano when I'm good. Sometimes I'm actually good. She's covering herself for the next time. But this is what amazed me. I'm having this conversation with her, and she looks at me and I can't make this stuff up. She says, you know, as we were talking about this, I just realized that when I don't practice, it makes it hard for you to teach me. Yeah, I was like, wow, okay, where did that come from? But yeah, I didn't even have to say that, right? And I would have never said that to her. But her frustration area was no real. And so if you are a teacher that likes to use some tech things, in your handout, there are some apps that you can use. These are all things that will help with note reading. All my students have a half-hour lesson and a half-hour lab every week that they come. So these are the types of things that they're doing in there. And we have a technology curriculum that tells you exactly which app to use and exactly what lesson to use at every step of the method books. So you don't even have to put a curriculum together, you just do it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that if that's something that somebody is interested in. And this is really great for drilling too, right? Self-correcting. But sometimes it's really more beneficial to guide your thinking. They can do this app, they can start figuring it out, they can start drilling it and practicing, but I don't know what they're thinking sometimes. And so this particular game is called Note Reading. And Note Reading is a game where they have to, for a series of card plays, spell their word before their opponent. None of Sally's games rely on speed, and that's super important because I don't want who's the fastest. I don't want who can go through their deck of cards and quickly spell their word. I want them working on reading notes. And so Amelia and I play this together. And what I found is just by doing this game, this is a base level, she was on F, A, C, E. Okay, right? Something that she maybe wouldn't have realized by doing the lab activity. But once we did this, then she was able to go to the lab and do more of it, or do it at home. Some of the students do it at home. So this is really a good option and a good discussion. What's really going on? And then you will see in a matter of playing this game once or twice, they're going to pick up that speed. And you'll know, oh, okay, they're ready. They're ready to go back to the bench. This is going to be a little bit easier for them. Do any of you teach in groups at any point, yeah, okay, so it could be like a Christmas party or something, right? So I'll show you, I'll just tell you briefly another game with the note cards that is a group activity. And I was going to actually have us do this, but I know with COVID there's all these restrictions. So what you do is on the back of your handout, there will word list. And so you'll have 3 stations set up. You'll have, we'll just call this station 1 over here. Let's say you have your word list, right? And the first student is going to look at the first list on the word, first word on the list, and we're going to pretend it is cab here. Okay, cab. And so they have to spell cab. I got to spell cab, C-A-B, with my letters like this, right? The second person then is at a station that has one of these keyboards, and they have to then look at those 3 cards and go, okay, there's a C, an A, and an E. And they have to spell it out. And then the third person for the third station looks at the keyboard and says, oh, that's C-A-B, writes C-A-B, and then you have to try to match at the end, like telephone, right? Do you have the right answer? Is that what the words are? And it's the team that just gets the most correct. So that's a really fun activity. You can set them up in stations. This one is a little bit faster, but you can set it up how you want. It doesn't have to be. It could just be an activity. Let's do, 3 people. Let's just do the steps. Not worry about points or winning or something like that. But that's a really fun activity. And then you can have them switch it up. Okay, you're at station 3 now, go to station 1. So that's what they're doing in this particular slide. And that's June again. June again. This is just a picture that we did this with some teachers in Minnesota. It's really. And if you have like little buzzers, these are really kind of fun to use because you can just hit it when it's time for them to switch jobs or at the end or whatever. So I know not all of our kids are little kids. So I want to introduce you to Oscar. And Oscar is in high school and was not practicing. And when I said why, when I asked him why, he said, I don't know. Give me some kind of work, right? I don't know. Well, he had been on a lesson that should have been done weeks ago, like we're just stuck. And he had been working on some challenging rhythms that he didn't know how the rhythm was supposed to go or how it's supposed to be counted, and therefore didn't practice. Now, these are things we go over in lessons, but by the time we get home, we must have forgot. I am guilty of that. My teacher, I just want to know what she's thinking of me because I always move my theory that down. Because I always know when I'm like, what to do. So I never did my theory. So there are things we did in lessons, but you know, by the time they get home, they just forget. They don't want to leave the effort into it. But he didn't want to admit this to me because he thought I might be upset. And maybe even more than that, I would say some of it is that they don't want to be embarrassed, that they don't know something. And so having that conversation and just figuring it out. So there again, there's apps. Here's a couple. Rhythm Swing and Rhythm Lab are some great apps that they can work on rhythm. In Rhythm Swing, they are going to listen to like an accompaniment and they have to tap the rhythm to that faster, slow tempo. Rhythm Lab is just reading rhythm. And this is kind of nice because you have two-handed, so you have left and right. So just a couple ideas if you're interested in apps that you have a couple go-to ones. A word of caution on Rhythm Swing. Students love it. They love Rhythm Swing. Unless they don't like that they're scared this alligator is going to eat that monkey. So just be aware of that. So Rhythm Riot is another game, and I just want to show you a couple of cards on Rhythm Riot. So on the back of that Don't Fret game, where you have Rhythm Riot, and we're going to look at this level 2. So in Oscar's case, I would have used a higher level of Rhythm Riot for his what he was working on. But in this case, you'll see how rhythm works. So Rhythm Riot makes it easier for them to practice rhythms. So all that we're going to do is have a calling card, and I would say to the students, what's the time signature? Because how many times do they just ignore that start the song? This is really effective. Now my kids look at the beginning because they're used to doing it at the end. And so then I'll say, okay, let's clap that rhythm. So you guys can do this with me if you have a hand. If you don't, that's okay. So I always make my kids count. You do whatever count card you teach, right? But 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And then you get to know that. Easy peasy, right? All right. If it's green on my board, it's going to be green on your board because all the 4/4 time ones are green. And that's to make it easier for them to find and for them to understand that time signature piece again. All right, so now we have a 3/4 time one. So let's do that one. So 1, 2, 3. 2 and 3. I didn't even have to do it again. You guys are so good. All right. One more. 1, 2, and 3. So then, oh wow, you guys can work off me to like anything you want. But I want to show you a couple other ways you can use this. So, like, let's pretend you can't see my screen, right? And I would just clap this rhythm and see if you can mark it off and use some rhythm dictation. So I go 1, 2, 3, and then can you find that? And they know it's 3/4 time, so they only have to look at their blue ones. Another, I don't know if that's a great example. I was looking for, here's one. You could also just swing with them. So you do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. That's a great way because when they're working on swing, it's sometimes they're doing so many things at once. It's nice to say, let's focus on this skill, then we'll add it back in the piano. And so lots of different, it can group. Like I can say, this, you guys are gonna do the beat. You guys just keep the beat over there. We're gonna do this one. Then you can switch it up. Let me fast forward through those. Oops. All right. Sally came to, well, Karen's been to my house just in state. But Sally came one summer and we did some summer lessons with my students together. Here's Amelia. You recognize her, right? In June. And we took the rhythm right cards and made a bucket drum. So this is something that if you think, well, I don't have cards, right? I can't do this. You can. Get a pot out of the cupboard, get a bucket, get a whatever you can find, and some kind of stick, a wooden spoon or whatever, and let them play these rhythms on whatever. We did it where we handed out rhythm cards. They had 2 cards of the same time measure or time signature, 2 measures. And then they had to play their 2 measures, and the next person had to come in without missing a beat, and the next person had to come in without missing a beat. And we just, did it like that. So they were practicing their rhythms, but they had to really focus and count when they're going to come in. You can do the same thing we just did, have 1 repeat beat, 1 repeat rhythm. So lots of different things you can do with these cards. So I know some of you already have these games. Oh, what else can I, do with it?
Michelle,
Yeah.
I have the cards. I love this game. I've used it over and over. But I find that when playing a card, they have to do it 2 times.
Yeah.
They do it just once, they tend to, it's not quite in yet. And then
Yes.
they have to jump back and keep the same rhythm. We always do it.
Yeah, and the same is true when you do the calling cards that they're playing. It's not just a one-time thing. Let's do that again. Oh, somebody made a mistake. Said, Amelia wants to do that one again. So they really have a good time doing this. Let me see if I'm missing anything. This one is by Sue Ruby, and Sue has helped us in our Keys to Imagination group. She's actually a teacher in Minnesota. She came up with this. And what she did is she just took, you can take masking tape or painter's tape or whatever, or you can do carpet squares. I think she actually did carpet squares, and you make 4 boxes just like this on the floor. And you can take, you can go back. Whoops. Well, you can go back to these rhythms, for example, and use these rhythms in this particular activity. Okay. So whatever your rhythm is, it's a movement activity. So they would step, let's say we just have 4 quarter, right? They would step 1 and then to the left, 2 in this, 3, 4. Right? So just 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you had 8 notes, they would do 1 and 2 and. If they had let's go back to this one, if they had a half note, you could have them slide, and I don't know if the foot matters, 1, 2, so that's held. Same thing with a 1, 2, 3, 4. So here again, private lesson, group lesson doesn't matter, right? On the bench, let's just do this. Because squirrely kid, we're gonna do rhythm, right? And she came up with a whole bunch of things you can do with it. But I thought just sharing something simple that you can easily do is going to be more helpful for you than. So this is Luke. And this picture was probably taken in right at the end of the year. He was like, I'm done with piano, I'm not going to be here next year. And I thought, well, we still have some work to do. Let's see if we can get him through the month, get him to learn some things. At least leave on a really happy, I'm really proud of him. Well, his thing that he got stuck on is were times or key signatures. And so we worked on key signatures with these days. Like I said, plus and altered, but they're just foam dice that just have the flats. So one side has 5 flats, one side has 4 flats. And then of course, and all I did was I tossed it to him and I had him roll it. And I said, well, first we went over like order sharps or flats, whatever we were doing. So let's say we're doing sharps. I'd say, okay, what's one sharp? Okay, F, two sharp F, C. And I taught him, we use fat cats get bigger after every breakfast. Whatever saying you can come up with is fine. And so I taught him that and knew the order. He tossed it, say, okay, tell me those three charts. And he'd say F, C, G, for example. And then I'd say, okay, now let's figure out the key. Okay. So he'd say, oh, yeah, well, I know what's this. This is super helpful for that too. Just, what's your last sharp? There's a marble there. Okay, well, that physical movement. This, if you've ever used the harmonic hiking, which we'll talk about at the end, but this is super for visualizing and working in that game. So we did that, and I think I even had him telling me the liners. For a kid that was going to quit lessons to soak up that information with it, just because of a little dice, I thought was amazing. Theory, he just loved theory. He loved doing that. He loved the games and the things like that. And so he ended up sticking with lessons. Not very long, but he did. Because he's like, oh, I get it, right? And I think that more so was it than the theory part. I think it was the, I can do this. Another way to work on key signatures is we have a triple threat. And have, it's like dominoes, there's always three ways to match. And you cannot match the picture one sharp to a picture one sharp, but if you have to match with the major or the minor, or the major and the minor to be matched. And that's a great way to work on key signatures too. So those are on the table there, so you can look at them. Great for any age kid, but especially some of those older kids who you might think, oh, well, you know, I forgot the date or things like that. There are things that they love doing. Lost me. Okay, so here's a couple ideas if you're outside. Now with winter coming, maybe not, right? Or maybe you have a nice big house that you can do this, but you can work on note reading or intervals with just jump ropes. So I just make this staff out of jump ropes. And honestly, it doesn't matter what you make up on the spot with these jump ropes, the kids invite. Because I was outside and we had a couple minutes and I had swirly kids and I'm like, okay, you're gonna go to the whatever line is helping. Where I have a frog stepping or puppet. And so I throw the frog on one. And then they would take the dice or we'd use some cards and say, okay, let's do, a third up or a third down or a skip up or a skip down or a step from the frog. So we call it frog. They don't care. They don't have frog anymore. That's, But anything you can come up with doing it, that physical movement, sometimes it's helpful for them to say, E, F, G. This little boy right here, it's taken me since April to get him to tell me what a line in a space note are, and to tell me what C is on the piano. But some of these things are really helpful in a different way. Don't tell them this. So another way you can work on intervals is in space clips, and this is another game that you can do one-on-one with students. Or this was Sally when she did my video, and in this game they have to pilot around the solar system with intervals. This is really important because there's cards on any plus on. So it just has the notes. So they're doing step or a skip or repeated notes on the further level, and then in level 1 and 2 they start with intervals. They're harmonic, they're melodic, there's half notes, quarter notes, whatever, so you're mixing them up. And that is really an effective way. If I ask the kids, you can pick any game today, a lot of times they'll pick this one. They really like it. Something that is really nice about this too is if you just have a few minutes left and you want to do this at the end of the lesson, you need to say, whoever's the furthest is the winner. Or we have, 5 minutes, let's just so you can get to the furthest planet or something like that. So it can be changed depending on your time. So one of my favorites, of course, I learned the value of water balloons, especially this summer, because I was like, we have to do something really different this summer. These kids have been on the moon all year, it's time. Well, Paul Mandarin and her daughter Tiffany came up with this summer camp. And this is a camp you can download on our website that she sells. And they're great outdoor activities that can be done indoor, with the exception of water things. You can adapt them. So I thought I should share a couple ideas for this. And she's got one that's rhythm, she's got one that's no reading. She's got like 15 of these. They're not all out yet, but she's got lots and lots of ideas. So in the summer, I talked about how we focus off the bench things. And so this is a lot of what we did. So this is Aubriana. And in this particular activity, we did key signatures, but we also did it with the younger kids with no reading. So they had all these different letters, and they just had to match a key signature, with the letter on their turn. So something very simple. Well, I chose this picture because I love this picture, but I also chose it because when we started, she had not started key signature yet, but it was not appropriate for her to be in a different group. So I said, listen, just work out. And if you,
What did they do?
oops, let me go back. There's key signatures on some of the cards, and they just had to find the name of the key signature, so they didn't even match. If it was no names, they'd have a card that maybe had, let's say, a G on it, and then they'd have to find, or a B, let's say, and then they'd have to find a B card and match that up. Not a very good activity around here, but this one, this particular group learned to count 6, 8 times and feel 6, 8 times. So they had to get the bucket or scoop up a cup of water, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then dump over and over. And I thought this was going to get a little fairly fast because they count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm just feeling it's not going to take very long. They went through 3 of those buckets of water, so we want to do that again. So you can tell they were having a great time. But there again, the young people, we did 6, 8 times, we did 1, 2, 3, 4. And sometimes those beginners just getting them to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 5, 6, 7, 8. And this was another kind of impromptu thing, but I used the space place cards from the game, and I held up, I said, okay, tell me the interval. And then we spun the spinner that comes with the original twister, with like right foot, left foot. And so it would be like right foot, and if it was a second, it went on red, if it was a third, it went on blue, if it was a fourth, it went on yellow, and if it was a fifth, it went on green. So this is an easy way to adapt something if you want to be more physical activity. And they can assemble figure learning the stuff, now we have to just put it all together. So practicing and focusing on those core skills that we just talked about, of course, will be most your turn and your out. And then if you assemble them, maybe back on the bench. But I think the number one thing that I learned in doing this presentation is talking to students. I'm assuming what they're telling you is really what's going on. And I told a couple of students that, hey, doing this presentation to share with other teachers, I really need to tell them what students are thinking so they can always tell them the teacher. So whatever you want to come up with for you might get some more sharing, right? My slide is missing. The other thing that I talk about is when you start picking out activities, how do we know what to pick? So I am going to exit this and open up everyone second about this, and I don't know if it won't be on there, but I'll just talk about it a little bit. But when you're choosing activities and games, it's important to look at things. I bet if I open up, you stop sharing It's not really clear. I must have skipped it somewhere along the line. Not sure, right? That's not sure. Yeah. We'll talk about it. It's just gonna be this one list of, one of those. So when you're looking for games, here's some ways that you can pick effective ones. So does the game effectively teach the individual skill that you need? So there's a game that I had by, I shouldn't say probably. It's probably a big combination, no longer race, but they had mobile on the board, and if they rolled the dice, if they landed on orange, they had to do the orange part. If they landed on yellow, they had to do the yellow part. Well, here's what happened with that. Kids love it. I let them pick, they love that game. But it never worked on what I needed it to work on. It was fluff. It might have been fun, but if I'm gonna have fun, why not work on what they also need working on? And so I like the way Sally's are used because it's, what do I need? I need to work on no reading, just do no reading. And like level 1 only covered the notes right on middle C. And so it effectively taught exactly what they needed to teach. Can the game be adjusted for different levels and ages? Even looking at the graphics. I told you, look at a lake, bars is kind of for younger kids, the rest of them. They don't have any graphics that are limiting on ages. I bet adults play, no reading as well. We'll talk a little bit about adjusted for time. Space place, you can adjust for who's the furthest. Or we have 10 minutes, wherever it's, maybe they know whatever. This is really important too. Does the game give all players an equal chance to win, or does it only reward the faster players? So think about a simple game, like you hold the flash card, whoever gets it, names the first gets that flash card, and whoever passes the flash card wins, right? Very simple thing. Well, what happens? The kid that is the fastest gets all the cards. And guess what the rest of them are like, I don't really care, I give up. Who needs to work on that skill? Everybody else. And so, because of that, I used to have some things that kids really like that I can use for that reason. And they might have their purpose for the right students and all of that. I'm not saying they're not valuable. They're not valuable to me as often because I need to work on those skills. Is the game accurate? I tell you what, I have downloaded games and printed them, bought them and printed them, and they have been wrong. Just wrong. So checking out accurate, attractive, and durable. I've had Sally's games since 2005, so doing the same ones. They've lasted that long. Does the game require printing, laminating, assembly, or purchasing additional parts? That's fine, it's factored into the time, the money to print, the laminating, and all of that. Just take that into consideration too. Is the game easy to learn and play? Karen always tells the best story about this on our games because our instructions, like for Rhythm Riot, fit on this card. Our instructions for Space Lights in this short because we want to play the game in so you don't have to figure out how to learn it. And the other thing is a lot of our games have multiple levels, so once you play one, you just move to the next one and then you play. Does the game allow the teacher to play with the student and not down to their level? This was an important factor when she was creating games. She goes, I want to play with them. You can cheat to lose, but I don't want to cheat to win. And you don't want your students to assume because you're the teacher, you're going to win. That's frustrating for a student. Well, my teacher's always going to win because she's better. Anybody can win. And it's because of this equal chance to win. It's not about who's fastest. And it gives them time to work on it. It's just a fun way of learning. Are the games effective for groups as well as private lessons? So if you can take that game, maybe a group lesson or maybe a Christmas party or a Halloween party or a group, a summer lesson or something. Just another way to make use of your investment. So just some things to think about when you're choosing whatever game or activity you're choosing.
Yeah, there's one other thing.
Yeah.
That I think is really important. You know, some of the games are a lot of, sort of said this, but they're sitting there waiting for their turn. And they're not doing anything, whereas these games, most of the time, and of course, and they're doing it all. Some of that changes what you have to do, so you have to and interact, or if you're just playing one-on-one with the students. I find that this is so helpful. I just don't, so often I don't like playing games where it was a waste of time, but if they're properly, with these considerations, you know, what is it that you're exactly working on, you can do it in 4 minutes. It's really helpful.
But you're right, like in the case of nobody, you know, they have to play whatever note is on their board, but they don't want to discard something that is clear can hit. So you're right, it changes. So what it does is it forces them to go through their hand again. Well, what does that do? It forces them to name all their notes again. Great, I just got them naming their notes. And so even in the case of their very first turn in the break, I think I identified 6 notes before they even knew it. And then they have to keep doing that. And that's what makes them good at it. And it's funny because in that slide I had of them playing space place, we have a video of this, and it's on somewhere on our website. But this little girl, Ariana, she was making titles. She had a pile of seconds, a pile of thirds. So she was like, she wasn't doing what I wanted to do, which is keep going through the cards, right? She had these piles. Well, it doesn't work in that game because the next player goes, because you can ask the other players. And the next goes, do you have a 4? And so Sally's, oh, you have a pilot, that's even better. You know, oh, geez. So she shuffled all the cards together. And so sometimes this is what you say to them too. Okay, now she'll go through the cards. So there's some
For your group lesson, do you have specific amount of kids for each group and about how much time on it? Because I do group lessons two times each like semester, and we do a recital group. So they're doing groups 6 times a year. Yeah. And so I try to keep them at level rather than
ages.
Yeah.
That's
But,
important.
yeah, because then you can't play the games, right? But, do you find that there's a specific amount of kids that are really good and about how much time in for each age?
So the way that I do my group lessons is that they come this summer for group lessons instead of private lessons. And I have it structured, they have 2 hours at a time, 6 times over the summer. So they get basically 12 hours of instruction, right? And I found that a group of 4 to 6 is a really nice size group. It's not that you can't do larger groups, but it also depends on what you're doing. Because if you're doing like rhythm riots, it doesn't matter if you have a bigger group. But if you want to get into some of those other things that are playing and taking turns, most are like 4 players. So you either need to have 4 players or you need to have 2 games going at the same time. But it's harder to manage too. So we either have like sometimes before my kids left for college, Brianna, come downstairs, I need you to watch this game, you know. So I'll have some help. But 4 to 6 was a nice and manageable number, in my opinion.
I was watching the Bastion sisters.
Yeah.
They were talking about their lessons and they had which is in addition to the lessons. And they were saying how they had older students come and help me, and that they actually like went to the schools and said, can you use this for like plus points and that kind of thing.
Oh, that's cool.
For tutoring.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking of doing something like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can find that. And I have a couple of students, I don't have a lot of high school kids, especially right now, but I have a couple that could do that. But it takes the right person that can say, no, that's not right. You know, they have to be outgoing enough to not really, you know, whatever. I guess they have to be.
I can honestly say that the group lessons has been one of the reasons why my students have stayed for longer years.
I would agree with that. And I noticed it, one of my little girls this summer, Karen and I just had a conversation about this little girl, but Allie, she said something, she's a junior high girl, and we went to play at an assisted living place and I was bringing her home. And in the car, she said, you know, that was really clever how you has to do all this stuff with water. And for her to be thinking about, look at all I learned as a junior high kid, I thought was kind of amazing, and it kind of made me go, yeah, I guess that was kind of clever. But you're right.
It gives them a community,
It
and
is-
they're seeing other kids that live like,
Yes.
and they said,
You get
feed
friends.
off each other.
So it's more lonely. And you know what else I realized? Do you know how many kids they told about without marketing? I know we have these giant game boards, motivation games that they use in the studio. They hang on the studio wall, and that has been a marketing thing too. It was never designed to be anything, but what you do in the studio markets itself. We're doing green screen videos now. And this little boy said, he goes, yeah, there was someone when I asked me, they got technical money for their background. Like, they're talking about journalism at school. This is good. So what you do, you're absolutely right. Do you guys know what green screen videos are? We have a green screen and then you can change the background. I can show you.
how do we structure that? And so what Michelle, what I have been doing, and what I'm gonna do on her presentation, I will tell you all later, but I'm gonna do a presentation on Music at Connect this year about my beginner boot camp, which deals with those, and I can't wait to hear what Mira's gonna say, because I think it'll tie in a lot, and I may have just a boot camp after what she has to say. So, you know, just breaking it down into its component parts. Think some of the symbol for beginners is finger numbers, recognizing line notes versus space notes. I mean, right down to the very basics, and most of them get it once it's explained, but so often you find that somebody will have a problem, and when you go back to those basics, you find out that there was one thing that they missed, and that's been throwing off what they learned. So I'm looking forward to Vera's, and that's next month. Yeah.
Can I come stay with you a second?
I'm not sleeping with this. I'm gonna do it for a long time, but a lot of it is, discerning, like you kind of alluded to this several times. So we as the teacher look at the piece and we need to immediately break it down from the skill set that it represents to the student. What do they already know? What can we not send them home figuring out on their own? Because it'll be too hard.
Yes.
And then, you know, many tools, practice techniques to new skills. Let's say somebody brings in a video game music. At the start of COVID, we did a lot of things like that. We just need to have a good time. So you pick. But that requires a lot of learning on the part of the teacher, unless it happens to be something that's in some lesson book series that have companion things. But that's our main job there, is to figure out what it is that they've done before and what have they never done, and how should we introduce that for the purposes of this piece or in general. You had the one slide that was how to learn anything fast. He said that big basket of skills and which are the new ones and how do we set them off to learn that well so they feel they can approach it.
And you know, and that's the thing we didn't talk as much about, but I agree with you 100%. Some of it is, we need to have a good time, we need to send them out feeling good. And how do we make them feel like they're going to be successful, right? Instead of overwhelmed. And you talk about that. So they're not going home and being complaints.
Because they won't be great. Just like we had so many examples, it was hard, it came in all. So
Yeah, my students are doing too good right now, but you know. But I will say, with green screen video project, I only had 2 that I was amazed. I have some kids that when I thought they're gonna come and record, we just recorded Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I thought they're gonna come and it's gonna take them 20 times to do. They were doing it on the first and second try. They were ready and they did well. And so I don't know if it's the preparation for a recital, because this is going to be put in a recital and sent out to the parents. But now the parents don't know about the green screen part. Because the kids are, oh, that's so great. And so I think that played into it too, but.
That's the other thing they do with a good lesson, is that make them play with each other. Because that gives them, and I because of the whole COVID thing, I try not to let anybody else except for the kids come in. Well, this last time, parents came in and they started videotaping kids, and I could tell the level of anxiety. We're not people. Here's what and I said, well, that's what you're going to have when you are this. The group is supposed to be best for us. And so you're only playing for kids that are really and they get better about practicing and preparing for that.
Yeah, you're right. And even if it's for each other.
Yeah.
And one of the things, if you ever do any video recitals, I mean, hopefully we're just getting to the end of COVID, if you do any video recitals, like, I want to tell you a little trick for recording, because I was recording kids, and there were kids, if I walk out of the just fine, but when I was watching them with the camera, that was a little stressful for them. So it was interesting when you said that when the parents came in and they started videotaping, I thought, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But if we're going to be performers, you know, we need to have that experience of being a little nervous.
But you know, and then like depending on their, like some of these kids, I think I had 6 or kids, this is their first recital, right? So I don't want to put that pressure on quite yet, but. A little more experience. I'm happy to answer any questions after. If you guys want to know.
You talked about the student you had that is trying to understand lines and spaces in middle C for months. I have 2 brothers identical to that. It's been like 4 months of just learning middle C and treble C and bass F, and it just, I don't know. It's did you come up with any way to get?
I asked Karen, she has an idea.
It's every week I'm pounding my head against the wall of what is not clicking.
Well, this is interesting because this is what I shared with Karen is that I don't know what it is this year. I have some kids that are really younger. I thought they were first graders going into 2nd grade. They were really kindergartners going into 1st grade. So I have these first graders. And I don't know if it was because they learned in the pandemic, if that changed things. And that's why I said something's changed with these kids coming in. You always have some kid that struggles and some kid that does really well. I'm not saying that as a whole. Like, why is this so hard this year? This particular kid, though, he couldn't say A, B, C, D, E, F, G. He didn't know that alphabet. That's what it really comes down to. So we spent, I don't know how many months. What comes after A? You know. And I thought I'd get the mom involved. I'm like, oh, the mom could work on this at home, right? Just in the car, say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then eventually backwards. And her response to me was, she goes, oh, we haven't been practicing. I'm sure he'll be fine when he comes back later. And I thought, no, he just needs to know the alphabet. So that particular had a very different, you know, he had to go back a little further, but I don't know what it is this year about some of those kids that are.
I've never had kids like that. I've had kids that were slow, but I never spent 4 months teaching 3 guide notes and going over and over and over it.
Yeah, and you know, something like Note Ready 1 would work. It has F through G right around middle C. I mean, it has those other notes, but I don't know, just pulling it off the stack. We have in Note Ready 1, you can also do a keyboard gap. And what I found is sometimes you can just do like CDE. Just show them those cards. So maybe you could, I haven't tried it, so I don't know, but just pull out the one thing. You know, it wouldn't spell the word, but maybe you can get them to go do a couple turns and then introduce them.
Yeah, I learned about flashcards last